Good day to you. It's good to see you once again. Now, last week when I was here, I was looking at trying to find value on the higher priced dogs in the greyhound races at level staking, because plenty of people who have commented on these videos have indicated that they're interested in level staking and not the progressive staking that I've been showing in most of the videos. So I've been trying to find strategies that can turn a profit on level staking. Now, greyhounds are an interesting option for this because they have limited field sizes and the outside chances tend to have odds that are somewhat higher than their actual chance of winning, mainly because people mainly bet on the favoured runners. And because there's those limited field sizes and there's plenty of interference in the races, it does provide some opportunities for those higher priced runners to get in. So last week, and if you missed it, the video's probably up there somewhere, I suppose, or there. One of those sides. There's probably a link in one of those corners just at the moment to last week's video. But last week we were looking at dutching the top half of the field. So in the 6-dog race, you'd be looking at the runners 4, 5 and 6, for example. Results from that, well, they were somewhat interesting. First day wasn't too bad. I'm not entirely sure why there was nothing on the 5-dog races. That may very well have been a mistake on my part. I might not have clicked all of the buttons properly to make it get going. Overall, it didn't go quite as well as I would have liked, but that's okay in a way, because I had another option there that was going to be a next stage of this testing. So if we go forward, I then added a hedge on the favourite, and results from that, as you can see, are a bit better. There's not quite as many particularly bad days in there. Now we'll come back to that in a moment. I'll come back to those results and analyse them a bit better shortly. But first, what do I mean by putting a hedge on the favourite? Well, let's have a look here. If we're looking at a 6-dog race, so we've got the 4th, 5th and 6th favourite, then the first favourite here, effectively it's an insurance bet. So we're still looking at the level staking, 50 cents per race or whatever value you want to have, but we have this insurance on the favourite in the race. Now, favourites tend to win about a third of the races over the long term. Day by day, you'll find variations on that. Some days are really good for favourites, some days are really bad for them. Long term, they tend to be about a third of the races that they win. I'm looking at here accepting possibly a 10% loss if the favourite wins, but in reality, with the hedging, once the maths is done by the bot and the bets are placed, I'm usually seeing if the favourite wins, it makes 1 or 2 cents profit. So it's generally a break-even result, which is what I want out of that, while still having the opportunity for the higher-priced dogs to return a decent profit. Now, adding this hedge does tend to reduce the possible payout on the higher-priced dogs by about half. Sometimes not quite as much as half. If there's an odds-on favourite, sometimes it's a bit more than a reduction of half. But regardless, it still leaves it open to getting a better profit without having as many losses along the way. Now, at this moment in time, Betfair is in the middle of a maintenance window, so I can't really show you any live odds right now to actually demonstrate this. So let's go back to Sunday night and see what the odds look like there. Right, so it's Sunday night. The evening session of the Australian dogs is well underway. The morning session of the British dogs has just recently begun. We have a race coming up at Yarmouth shortly, and there's another one at Gawler just after that. They meet the requirements in terms of the number of runners for the system we're doing, of course, looking at runners, 4 to 6 runners. Whether they'll meet the rest of the requirements of liquidity and profit margins is yet to be seen, but Yarmouth at least certainly has already met the liquidity. the amount matched requirements. So let's just have a look and see the difference between just doing the dutching the outsiders and adding a hedge on the favourite. So this race at Yarmouth, we can see it has 6 runners. Let's just sort them into their odds order. Now if we were to just dutch the outside 3, we'd be looking at a profit margin, assuming one of them wins, somewhere around a 296%, maybe 200, 300. Now that's with the tick offset in place. So realistically, let's just remove the tick offset from view. It's more likely to be somewhere out at the 350 mark. However, the bot is trying to place the bets at 5 ticks under the current price, and it's doing its calculations based on that. That's a safety feature as far as I'm concerned, just to make sure that we have a better chance of being matched. So we'll do the calculations based on worst case scenario. If we add a hedge on the favourite, we reduce our potential profit margin down to about 100%. We have possibly a 4% loss on the favourite. Without the tick offset, that actually sits at 0%. Nonetheless, that's 100-ish percent down from about almost 300%. So we're taking about a third of the profit margin there. That said, this runner is just a little bit better than odds on. Most of the time, we're going to be seeing runners that are paying a little bit more than this as favourite, and in that case, we tend to see the profit margin on the outsiders only halves, or sometimes a little bit better. Sometimes we're looking at about 60% of what we would have done if we didn't have the hedge there. So it looks like we will get a bet onto this race. So I just pull up Yarmouth. I wasn't actually expecting this one to be on Sky Racing, but it is. So you can see we've got bets placed here. So if the favourite wins, we're looking at a 3-cent profit. 1 and 2 are looking at 61 cents. 6 is looking at $1 because it's way out at $70. And that's partially because obviously this tick offset makes the figures look worse here. So let's have a look at this. We're looking at numbers 216 with 3 as our safety feature. So they're just about to load here at Yarmouth. So 216 with 3 as our safety.
Last couple coming forward at Yarmouth. A8 for this 11-17. Check them over. As running at Yarmouth. We're all set for the 11-17. And away they go. 5 is slowly into stride. It's 2. Burnville Mouse comes out well with 3 and 4. Who's going to get in front? 3 leads the way. Takeoff Buster with Morrow Bell the 4 just behind. Then Salem's Reggae's made a bit of ground. Burnville Mouse is now under pressure. Kulog Rusty's further back in the field. 3 leads the way to 4 and 5. Takeoff Buster off the final turn. 3, 4, 5 in single file. And 3 beats 4 and 5.
So number 3, a very strong favourite there, so we'll have that 3 cents profit, take off the 5% commission, and maybe we're looking at 2 cents. Regardless, that saved us from having a 50-cent loss, and we still had the potential of making a decent little profit there. We'll jump forward to Gawler. So as we look at Gawler, we're about 2 minutes from the jump. We're still a fair bit under the required liquidity here, the required matched amount in this race, but almost half what we need here with 2.5 to go, so I expect that we'll reach it by the time we get there. Odds on this one, a little bit more even at the moment. We'll just sort them out. So again, if we Dutch the outside half of the market, we're looking at profit somewhere around 180-ish%. We add the Dutch on the favourite, and that brings us back to about 74, maybe 80%, depending on the runner, which is reasonable. We're still a couple minutes out from that, so let me just have a look quickly at another race coming up that has 8 runners in it. So the Broken Hill race, just a minute after that, well, it actually has 7 runners. I don't know whether this system would really work with more runners in the race. I'm not seeing profit margins that are actually all that much better. You're still looking at fairly similar profit margins if the race goes your way. You're still looking at hedges that'll be somewhere around break even, but you are looking at having extra runners here that can catch you out. You're looking at having 3 extra runners that can catch you out. And go forward to Grafton, which I think has 8 runners in it. And so in that case, if you're Dutching the bottom half of the market, well, those numbers look slightly nicer, which you'd expect when you've got odds like those. And incidentally, Australian races do seem to have a lot more of these higher odds than the UK races, simply because the UK races seem to be a little bit more even overall. Plus, this one's got an odds-on favourite in it, which always pushes out the outsiders. But still, with the Dutch and the hedge, 100-ish%, maybe a little bit more as a margin. With the extra runners 2 through 4 here, looking at if they win, it's a little bit of a worry. Let's have a look at Gawler again, as it's just about to jump. So we're looking at 80-ish%. Let's see how those numbers look. We're looking at 2, 4, and 7 to make just over 50 cents profit. So they're actually looking at a bit over 100%. Number 8 is a break even, pretty much 2 cents profit. So numbers for us here, 2, 4, 7 with 8 as our safety.
Last star winner in 22.66, racing well, has won 2 of its last 3, but unwanted by the market. And then My Mum's Value 550 to 8. So favourite the 8, Go Snow and Springvale Roxy on the second line. They're the best 2 backed. Race 9 Gawler. Here's the lure revving up. Green light on. Racing and speed down low from Springvale Roxy and carving over Pink Confetti. Pink Confetti got to the lead. Go Snow goes to second. Third was Run On Rusty. Then came Panama Queen. Springvale Roxy got shuffled out of it. And the last one, My Mum's Value. Pink Confetti, though, said catch me if you can around the corner. Go Snow went wide and Pink Confetti railed through hard and Pink Confetti wins to Go Snow second. Run On Rusty third. Then came Panama Queen.
Interesting graphic from our friends at Sky Racing there. If they need a photo to see that, they need their eyes tested. Nonetheless, number 4, good result for us there. Let's have a look here at our results tab, because that's just settled. So you can see that has indeed paid nicely there. We got matched at 880. So we can see here, Gawler, this race, our outlay, as you know, was 50 cents. We had a win there. The profit overall was 56 cents. Take out the 7% commission on that race, we're left with a 52 cent profit. But yeah, a decent number of these races have outsiders winning. So that was a good result, that one. And that earlier race at Yarmouth, you can see the favourite won there. So we had 3 cents. The commission on UK races is 5%, but 5% is too small to take out of 3 cents. So we get to keep the whole 3 cents. Lucky us. So that was a few races on Sunday night. If we have a look at some results again, it's been interesting in that there's very little activity on races with 4 runners. The UK seems to have done okay on that. Australia, New Zealand, not so much. Australia, New Zealand, not so much. But the UK seems to have done okay on that. But there's very few races there, so it's hard to really gauge that. There's generally no more than about 4 or 5 in a day, and sometimes less. Races with 5 runners, this is probably the best one for the UK. So we can see on the 18th it did quite well. The 19th it went down again, but it had a good day on the 20th. Australia is a little bit less good. Maybe if I give that a longer run, it might prove to be good. What I am surprised by here is the 6-dog races. The UK is generally down, and it had a terrible result there on the 18th. An okay result on the 20th, but it doesn't really make up for that by any stretch of the imagination. But Australia has been up for the most part. Now, there was a down day there, but it was only down a little bit. Now, the question I have to ask there is why? And I think the answer there is that the Australian races tend to have higher prices per race compared to the UK in a lot of cases. And the 6-dog races, the UK, so there's still some higher prices available there, but I think Australia overall tends to have higher prices. Possibly this is because the UK grading system makes the races a bit more level. Possibly it's just that there's a lot more money in the UK races. People do bet a lot more on UK greyhounds than they do on Australia and New Zealand, which may tend to even out the odds a little bit. Nonetheless, it's an interesting statistic to see that Australia is performing better there, even though there's probably not a lot of difference in the percentage of outsiders winning. In fact, probably the UK has a better percentage of outsiders winning, but nonetheless, Australia seems to be performing better on actual results. Which takes me to what I'm now doing next. The next stage of this is, I can see that 5 runners looks okay in the UK, so I will certainly look at doing that. But for Australia, I'm looking at now doing the races with 6, 7 and 8 runners. So I'm not doing the UK with 6 runners. That tends to, as you saw there, be a little bit not so good. I'm going to see if the 7 and 8 dog races do better in Australia. So if we go back into the Hedge Dog Bot here, you can see I've got the 6-dog race set up here in this tab. Here I've got the 7-dog race, so a hedge on the first favourite and a Dutch on the 5th, 6th and 7th. And in this one here we're doing the 8s, so Dutching 5, 6, 7, 8, hedging the first. This does mean that we have 3 dogs here that could be a danger to us. I only started this morning, but in a few hours so far, 8 dog races up $1.44, 7 dog races down $1.98, 6 dog races up $2.07. It's a little bit difficult to show you this because Betfair's in its maintenance window, but there is a little bit of a trick to selecting just the Australia and New Zealand or just the UK races. Because there's not a specific tick box for that, it does involve selecting or deselecting particular venues. Now, for what I'm doing with just Australia and New Zealand races, I'm deselecting the UK. That's a little bit easier. Betfair seems to load the UK races into the system about a day in advance, 24 hours in advance usually, so you can just very quickly go in and deselect the UK venues. Australia and New Zealand tends to get drip fed in during the day in Australia, which could mean if you're trying to filter out the Australian races and just have the UK races that you might have to go in multiple times during the day. That's annoying, not the best way to do it. What you can do instead, if you're running a strategy that's just looking at UK races and you don't want any Australia and New Zealand, is don't run the bot during the downtime of the UK races, so overnight. Stop the bot when you get to the end of the UK day, or the end of the UK night. Shortly before the next UK session starts, so UK morning time, which is usually late afternoon, early evening in Australia, open the bot, deselect the remaining Australia and New Zealand venues. By that stage, the remaining Australia and New Zealand venues for the day will be in. The one to be careful about is Saturday morning in Australia. The races kick off very early to avoid clashing with the thoroughbred racing. So that you'll probably find for the Friday night UK races that Australia's been added on to the end of the list. So you may need to just filter out an Australia venue or two from the end of that, because there is sometimes a bit of an overlap between the end of the UK Friday night and the start of the Australia Saturday morning. Now, before I go, some good news for people who enjoy watching British Greyhound racing. Earlier in the year, the free-to-air TV channel in the UK called Sporty Stuff, which had Greyhound TV, it shut down rather abruptly. Now, that was rather unfortunate, I thought, because Greyhound TV was quite an entertaining service. The hosts were quite entertaining, and it ran races that I couldn't actually see in Australia most of the time because of the time zone difference. It was usually running the evening session of UK racing, a lot of which is past the time where Sky Racing here shuts off and goes to replays. So it was nice to have the ability to see races there. Plus, the hosts were quite entertaining. It was a well-produced thing. And my Jack Russell Shiley did manage to get herself an appearance on there late last year.
Gordon Stewart, who wishes all the team Merry Christmas and a successful tipping for the new year, which would be nice, wouldn't it? He's really enjoying the coverage, as is his dog, who is called Shiley. There is Shiley watching RPG TV in Canberra, in Australia. Amazing. I love it. I love it. There's my Christmas jumper in the background, and Shiley in Australia is watching and enjoying the show. Great. A happy Christmas to you as well, Samuel. It must be morning there, so good start to the day. Hopefully you've had a few winners already. Have a great Christmas. Right, 9:12 at Towcester is up.
Now, unfortunately, it shut down a few months ago. The statements made it sound like it was financial reasons, which is interesting considering last year was apparently their best financial year ever. But I think some changes to the structure of Greyhound broadcast rights in the UK at the start of the year, plus losing the Racing Post as major sponsor at the start of the year, probably didn't help things. The good news there, though, is that pretty much as soon as they shut down, another provider called Ayozat announced they wanted to try to revive Greyhound TV in one way or another. And they've made the first steps of actually doing that. Now, the upcoming Greyhound Derby series at Towcester from, where are we, May 23rd to June 29, that's going to be on Ayozat. Now, they're doing it as a pay-per-view service, unfortunately, so it's not quite free-to-air, but the final will be on free-to-air, and that's June 29. That will be available to stream for free on Ayozat's website and on free-to-air, apparently Sky Channel 186, I think, possibly some other free-to-air channel numbers, I don't know. But that at least does mean there will be some Greyhound racing on free-to-air again, at least for that one night. Ayozat's statements indicate they're doing this as pay-per-view to help them with the setup costs to get this going, and then we'll see what happens further on. The always entertaining Jason Barrisford is back hosting it. It looks like a few other former Sporty Stuff presenters are coming in to run the show as well, so I'm looking forward to that. I've paid my £15 for the whole series, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. Sure, it's in the middle of the night, but it's always nice to see some Greyhound racing out of the UK, even if it does tend to have some interesting results that don't always turn profitable. It's still always entertaining to watch. So, with all of that said, I am at the moment just running the Australian dogs for this system with the hedging and dutching. So we'll give that a week and see how that goes, and come back to you with some more results.